Hey everyone, it's Noah and welcome back to the SourceStart YouTube channel. In this video, we're going to be going over the type of listings that you should avoid as a Walmart seller. From listings that are not going to be profitable to listings that if you add them to your catalog, it's going to cause issues for your Walmart account. We're going to be covering everything in between. So without further ado, let's begin. This is easily one of the biggest mistakes I see newer beginners make, and that is selling products that the brand is on and that they're going to cause issues. So IP restrictions as well as IP complaints, counterfeits, all of that works differently on Walmart than it does on Amazon, and there really isn't a great way to determine if something is going to be an IP risk or if there is going to be a trademark complaint other than just having a list of those different brands. So if you'd like a list, be sure to check out the description below. But a good way to see is if the brand is on the listing and if there are any other third-party sellers. So I look at this listing right here, and this is a Panera Bread coffee. Now, I actually made the mistake of listing this Panera Bread, and Panera issued an IP complaint. If I had taken a look at the data for 2 seconds, I would have seen that this was a bad idea. So if we take a look at any of the Panera Bread store products, we can see that the only seller on this listing is Panera Coffee. That's across any of the Panera Bread coffee products. So that is again something that you want to look for. If you see a product and the brand is a seller on there, then you can go ahead, just make sure to take a look at any of the other listings from the brand, see if there are third-party sellers, or see if there's anyone else other than the brand or Walmart on those listings. Now you can also do this with SourceStart. So if you open up the SourceStart Chrome extension and you're going to let it load up, from there you can just go to product analysis, and then you can hit the historical seller count. So we can go to 3 months, 6 months, a year, all year. We just see that it's one seller. So again, we can use that pretty much as evidence that Panera is not playing nice. They don't want anyone else selling on their listings, and they are the only seller on their listing historically going over a year's worth of time. So make sure that you're paying attention to who's selling on that listing and if the brands are actually letting you sell on their listings. That's also going to be true for private label products. Now, private label is not as big on Walmart as it is on Amazon, but there are a lot of brands that might discount their products on Amazon or other sites, and then you can go ahead and you can sell it on Walmart for a profit, but just make sure that you're using SourceStart to analyze how many sellers are on the listings for these brands. So normally what I'll do is I'll search up the brand, and then from there, I can open up the SourceStart Chrome extension on the side, and it's going to tell me all the different listings from the brand, and I can analyze how many sellers. So I see this one has one seller, this one has one seller, so this one has two, so that's interesting, but most of them are going to have one seller. So this is a private label brand and something that I want to stay away from because the brand might issue a complaint, or they might just go ahead and they might jeopardize my account if I list any of these products. So you want to make sure that you are, again, just keeping this in mind and looking for the signs when doing product research. The next mistake that I see a lot of beginners make, or just sellers in general, is focusing on categories that they can't sell. So there are certain categories and products that you can't sell. So you are not allowed to sell any brand that is owned by Walmart, and that's going to include brands like Mainstays or Ozark Trails or any Walmart private label brand. It's going to be an error if you try and add it into your catalog. So avoid any brand owned by Walmart. Then there are certain brands that are partnered with Walmart. So Sofia Vergara has a beauty or a cosmetic item that if you try and add it, it's going to again just be an error. So different brands like that. Now that's going to be included in the list underneath this video. But a recent development is that Walmart recently restricted certain types of products to third-party sellers. Now those categories are going to include beauty, cosmetic. They're also going to include ingestibles like pet ingestibles. A lot of products were impacted, a lot of categories. The complete list is under here for the prohibited products policy. So here you can go ahead and take a look at some of the prohibited categories. Now you'll see that for this beauty product, for this L'Oreal Paris different beauty product, we can see the number of sellers, that it had about 10 sellers, and then all of a sudden it dropped down to 1 within 1 day. So all of these sellers got restricted. Now, if you're selling on this beforehand, there really isn't any way to prevent it. But going forward, when analyzing these products, always make sure to take a look at the past historical performance for the number of sellers and the different data points so that you can determine if this category is gated or if there are issues that have already happened on the listing before going and adding it to your catalog. The next mistake that I see some sellers make is that they're too afraid to go ahead and compete against Walmart. Now, I'm going to make another video about when to compete with Walmart and different opportunities. However, you can definitely compete against Walmart and you're able to win the buy box from them. So take a look at this Miss Rachel doll. Walmart is currently in stock at $15.96. This thing is absolutely selling like crazy, 500 plus bought since yesterday. And if we open up the SourceStart Chrome extension and we take a look at the seller insights, we can see that it is saying the buy box winner history has just been 100% Walmart. But if we take a look at the product analysis and we take a look at the historical seller count, and over the past 3 months, we can see this going up and down. So different third-party sellers are able to come in and they're able to either win the buy box or just make sales in different regions where Walmart is not winning the buy box in those regions. When competing against Walmart, the only concern that you want to have is that you have enough margin. So just in case either Walmart doesn't go out of stock when you expect them to, or they end up lowering their price for a long period of time, make sure that you have enough margin so that this way you can either go ahead and lower your price to undercut them, or that this way you can go ahead and liquidate pretty quickly. So the minimum for the ROI that I look for competing against Walmart is roughly around 40%. Anything less than that, again, it's just going to be a shot in the dark, and you never know what Walmart is going to do, and you also don't know how much you're going to need to undercut them in order to win the buy box. The second to last mistake that I see beginners make is that they're not analyzing all the data correctly. So I have a full tutorial on how to use SourceDart and how to analyze data on Walmart that is linked down below. But generally, when you're on a listing and you're taking a look at everything, you want to see the demand. So that's going to be the estimated sales. You're also going to take a look at the product analysis, make sure that it's getting verified reviews pretty frequently. Also take a look at seasonality. So if a product is seasonal, it might be getting verified reviews in Q4, so maybe around the holiday times of November, December, but it doesn't really sell during the middle of the year. So that's why you want to be taking a look at all the data, checking when verified reviews are happening. And you also want to be looking at the seller count as well as the price. So these things are typically correlated pretty heavily, supply and demand. But essentially, if you're having an increase in sellers and the demand is not increasing, then the price is going to drop because more supply means that more sellers are going to have to try and sell at the same demand. So they're ultimately going to be lowering the price. It just becomes a race to the bottom. So you want to make sure that you're not buying when there's a sudden spike in sellers. And you also want to look out for stable pricing. So taking a look at this Keurig machine, I can see that the historical seller count has just been 1 or 2. So taking a look at the historical seller count of this listing, I can see that it's gone from 1 to 2. So not a lot of data to go off of. And if we take a look at the pricing, I can see that this is very stable. So this is a listing that I'd feel comfortable going on because there's really not that much competition and the price is pretty stable. Versus if we go to a different one and I open this up, and we take a look at the pricing as well as the historical seller count, we're going to be able to see that there's a lot more oscillation on this listing, and we want to make sure that we're timing it well and that we're not buying in when the listing is going to be a bad buy, or we're sitting on this product for a long time, which is going to prevent us from churning our capital and ultimately making money. The last mistake that I see beginners make, and this is ultimately a huge one, is they're not double checking the listings that they're selling on, or they're creating fake listings. So Walmart has a policy where you're not allowed to create duplicates. Now that does not stop a lot of sellers because it's so easy to create those listings. However, if we go ahead and we search up this Deadpool action figure, I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, almost like 10 or so different listings for the exact same figurine. Now they are almost all bestsellers, so this listing is selling really well and they're all at different price points, but you want to make sure that you're looking for the original one, because if you're on one that is fake, or if you're on one that is potentially going to be sold as a counterfeit by another seller, then your account is going to be in jeopardy as association. So if you're on a duplicate listing, then you might be hit with a duplicate listing policy. If you're on a listing where another seller is selling a counterfeit item, then Walmart might go ahead and hit you with a counterfeit claim. You never know what's going to happen. So what you want to do is just make sure that you're taking a look at the brand. So this is a Deadpool item, and then the brand is Deadpool. But that's not true. The brand is not Deadpool. It is either Marvel Legends or maybe Mattel or whoever made this. But this seller went ahead and they created this listing because, again, they just didn't want to compete with other sellers. So make sure that you're looking at the photos, make sure that you're looking at the item description, make sure that you're looking at the name, but more importantly, make sure that you're looking at the brand, making sure the information matches. If you'd like to try out SourceDart for yourself, which is the software that I use inside of this video, be sure to go ahead and click the link in the description, and then you can go ahead and scroll down, and we have a 10-day free trial. And from there, if you'd like up to 50% off any of the plans, be sure to use code NOAH15, which is again going to give you up to 50% off. So that's going to be it for this video. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.